Hey everyone, John Deere here, and welcome to an Embroidery Medic tutorial where I take designs that you have issues with and I try to fix them up to the best of my ability. Now, if you like these types of videos, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time we release a new video. Well, we are using our new Embroidery Legacy Digitizer, and I was provided the JDX file, which is the native file format for our software. And it is always best when editing design if you have the ability to edit the native file, because those are the original objects and nodes within the design. Within our software and many others, you can convert to outlines, so you can bring in an expanded data machine file format and it will do its best to convert it to outlines, but you generally will have extra inclination points, extra nodes, because the software has to try to, redefine or redraw all of those stitches and shapes into outlines. So this is the best case scenario. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my backdrop, and I have one of two options. I'm going to get rid of my backdrop if I want to start editing this design, which I will. But I did want to show you as well that within the backdrop, if I bring that back, I can also have the option to select my backdrop, which if I click on this and right click, I can get my properties. My properties come up. And when I am creating a design, I do like to actually reduce the opacity or the opacity of the design so that I don't have this stark black on black. It's really hard to see black stitches on a solid black background. So that's something I definitely do right away. I love that feature. And then I can close that up and I can continue on. But in this case, I will go in and just hide the backdrop altogether, so all I'm seeing is the stitches. Now this isn't a really big design. I can see that it's almost 4 inches wide by about 1 inch high. So it's going to be on left chest or for the front of a baseball hat. And by doing a slow redraw on the design, which I can speed up, I can determine which way it was digitized very quickly. And I can see right away that it's being done with the lettering going from left to right. And that tells me that this would be for a left chest as opposed to a cap, because most people who do know about the principles of digitizing hats, you know that you need to start from the bottom up and go from the inside out. So this would have been kind of in reverse from what it's doing now, and then move up to the lettering and start at the A, move out to the M, and then from the R to the M on the other side. So I can tell right away that this is done for a finished hat. Now I will also say that personally, anytime I get a piece of artwork like this, I will automatically digitize it for a finished hat because I know that a customer can come to you one day and say, oh yeah, this is going on a golf shirt, and you'll say, are you sure it's only going on a golf shirt? And they'll say, yeah, it's only ever going to go on a golf shirt. And then lo and behold, they come back a week later and they say, you know what, we decided to do this on hats. And then you're having to go in and either redigitize segments, edit segments, and sometimes changing a left chest design to a cap design. It's almost faster to redigitize it than to go into all these objects and start resequencing them in an order so that they sew and are machine friendly with minimum trims and jumps. So I do like to kind of second guess my customers or the people that I'm doing designs for before they even ask, because it just ends up saving me time and aggravation later on. Now, one thing I'm going to try not to do is redigitize this design. I'm going to do my best to edit the areas that need to be fixed. I might add a couple of little pieces for traveling, but the main issue with this when it ran was that all of the stitching that joined the letters, they weren't 100% happy with how they became visual when they were done. They had to go and take scissors and try to trim some of these up so that they were a little bit cleaner. Now I'm going to take a look at this design in the actual scale. If I turn the 3D off, I can see that there's the design, but I'm zoomed in. The reality of this is a 1:1 scale, and just looking at this at a 1:1 scale, I can see that these are really close together. They are kerned pretty well, and I don't necessarily need to drop a stitch between the letters, and I'll get into that in a future video. But I'm going to try, because that does require more digitizing, but I'm going to try to join these at closest point. And looking at the design the way it was, I do have a little trick that should help us to make it a little bit cleaner. So when I look at this, and let's just pan up a little bit so that my face is out of the way here, when I look at this, I'm going to go through each of the letters and fix the little mistakes that I see and kind of explain as I go along. And then we'll add some underlay to this because I don't see the adequate underlay needed for this design. But I'll try to make all of these connecting stitches disappear a little bit just with using the, the editing tools within the software. So logically, I'm going to start at the beginning, and let's just pan over here and get a bit of a closer look at each of these letters so that I can start to kind of fix them. If I look at all of these objects right now, I can see that this is actually pathed, in my opinion, correctly. They've kind of capped the end of this, and then this one here, though, if I look at it, I'm not 100% happy with the way the stitch directions or the inclinations are being done on that. It's kind of, coming to the bottom and not going straight across. So I'm going to go to my path edit on this one, and I'm going to take this one here and move the stop, and I'm going to take this one here and just move that one as well, and that kind of fixed up that little problem. The rest of it is fine, but when I get here, what I found is even though the space becomes a little further apart, I do like to actually have my stitches go across up one stitch as opposed to being done at the very end. I find that when you have connections at the very end of objects, then it tends to cause some detrimental effects. Now, I'm going to call up the sequence real quick here because we are going to be looking at the sequence of all these objects as they go along. And as they are selected, if I select this object, I'm going to see that this one right here is number 8, and then number 9 is right there, and number 10 is here. So that's the sequence that it was done. I'm going to probably go in and try to edit this because I'm not 100% happy with how they came up this side and down the other, because that area that has stitches going in the same direction could separate as it pulls. And where they cap the tops of the M's, I would rather see a capping here. So then comes the issue of, well, how am I going to do that without redigitizing it? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both of these objects here, and I'm going to actually convert them to artwork. So we do have a really cool thing here where we can convert to artwork. That converts those shapes to artwork. I can close them off, so I've closed off the top of the shapes. And then because it's now artwork, I can come here and I can weld these together, so it really has recreated one object. And then I can come in very easily and slice this. So I'm going to slice right across the top here, and I'll slice to the other side, and I'm going to create really a cap for that. So I've created a couple of extra objects within that. Now I'm going to have to resequence a little bit as I go through, because right now, and I do have it so that this area that I generated as artwork is now at the bottom. So I am going to have to bring these up afterwards into the sequence, but that's fine because I do want to make sure that they sew in the order I want to. At this point, I'm just going to select these objects and convert them to stitches, and then I'll worry about changing my order in which they actually are created within the sequence, and I'll edit the starts and stops so that it makes sense. So I'm just going to come here, start and stop is fine because I'm going to fix that up later on. Then I will go to the next object, and let's select the next object in the sequence. So I'll select this one, get rid of that one. I'm going to do the same thing, create a convert to a satin stitch, and when I convert it, I just have to put in my inclinations, generally one at the open ends, so that one I want to make sure stays across, this one I want to make sure stays across, and then I generate that by hitting enter. Start and stop are fine at this point, and let's just go up here, and I do want to go in and try to edit that because I'm not 100% happy with how that kind of did that, and I can tell why right here, because these objects, I'm just going to delete that point. I'm going to delete this point as well. So let's come here and do that one straight across. And now let's see if it created that object the way I want. Let's turn on the 3D. And I still have a point there that I'm not happy with. So let's see if I can get that fixed. Let's move that one to there and get rid of that point. And now I've fixed it. So I did have to go in there and kind of readjust things, get rid of the unnecessary nodes. But when I did, then it gave me the straight line across the top. Because there was an extra set of nodes there, because the software converted to artwork, and then I spliced it and I capped the ends. But the cool thing is you are able to see this as artwork. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both of these objects, and I'm just going to slide them within the sequence view So let's just grab actually these two right here. Grab this one, and then I'm going to grab it and let's just move it all the way up to the top in the sequence view. So now I know that one is where I want it, right there, and I'm going to then move them in the order in which I want, because I knew that this one here was going to go right at about number 8, which is this piece right over here, I believe. Let's see what it does. So I'm going to take this one and go right to number 10 and put it in order. So now there's that one. Then I have this one here, which number 10, that's number 9, that's number 10. I'm going to go back up to the top and grab the one that I want now, this one, and I'm going to move it down in the order so that it is after number 10. So it's going to go right here. So now I have them in the sequence, and all I have to do is start to change the order in which they sew. So I'm going to come here and say, okay, I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to start this one. It's going to start right here, and then it's going to end right over here. And then the next object is going to start right there, and it's going to end over here, which is fine. But what I want to do is I'm going to come in and edit that object, the path on this one, and let's just take this one and move it over, because I really don't want it to go into the next object the way it was, so that fixes that. And then with this one, I want it to start right here, because that's where I ended the last object, and I'm going to have it finish right here, a stitch up. Now, I'm going to run into the same thing on this R, because I don't necessarily like the way this is going up and going into a straight line and then doing the curve. Embroidery has push and pull, so it's going to push up on that open end of this first piece right here, and then it's going to go here, and you're going to see, in my opinion, what will look like a mistake right here. So we do need to adjust this, and I probably will need to, I guess, edit some areas as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my digitizing tools, and I'm going to get kind of prepared for what I know I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put a point right here. Actually, I got to undo that one. The reason why is I don't want my freehand, I just want a line tool. I'm going to go right here, 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 and right to there, and I'm going to enter that. So I've created one little stitch, which again fell in the very bottom order. There will be a tool in the future that I'm fixing that, so you can digitize from a set point on an object, but in this early build that has not yet been implemented, but odds are if you're watching this a year from now, it will do it in a much easier fashion. But the reason why I did that is because rather than go in and have to redigitize this entire shape, because again I'm dealing with pieces of artwork, I can convert these, I can again close my shape, I can then go over here and tell it to weld these together, which gave me one shape, and then I can come over here and tell it to slice, and slice a point from right there to right here, and right click, and now I've generated a shape that is more friendly for embroidery. So when I do come in and select that object, it's now one object, I can convert it to stitches, and I can come in and put my inclinations in and turn these stitches the way they should be turned to give me a friendly object when it's done. My start is there, my stop is there, but that's irrelevant at this point because I am going to again change the sewing order. I put a traveling stitch here, so I would go to here, so I can do this object first, because this line going straight across the bottom, that is going to be very visual, but if I connect it from here to here, it should virtually disappear when it's at the one-to-one size. So I'm going to edit that object first, and then we'll resequence these in the right order to make them join at the top instead of the bottom. Now to do that, all I'm going to do is see where this point is right here. This one actually is number 10, and I want to put that traveling stitch right between 10 and 11. So I'm going to unselect that one, and let's just select that one little stitch that I did at the bottom, and let's move it right up in the order. Actually, I got to make sure that I open it up and just select it. I'm going to move that right up in the order so that it's going to be right where I want it, in between number 10 and 11. So just keep on going up in the order, and right here is where I want it to be. So now it's going to go from one side to the next, and then from that side to there, and then let's see where this one fell. This one probably also fell right at the bottom because I regenerated that. So let's grab this one here, and now I'm going to bring it up right after that piece that is going to be generating. So here I have this one here, I have that one there, and then let's just come here. I want it to be right here after that bottom piece, right after 13. So now I have this one running, then this one, and this is where I'm going to go in and edit these objects because I want to make sure that I change the start and stop point. So edit path, I want it to start down here and end right over here. And then the next object is going to start there and end right over here. And then this object is going to start here and it's going to, or at the bottom there, wherever, let's just start it there, and it's going to end right over here so that it is closest point. And then when I look at this one, which should be the next one in the order, that's where I will have to go in and rearrange the order of some of these because I don't want this one to sew first. I don't want to have a jump. I'm going to take this one right here, move it up in the sewing order so that when it does that piece, I'm going to hit my, oops, I did not want to do that. Hopefully it'll switch back for me. Yes, it did. Okay, I want to hit this one and tell it to edit the path so that I'm going to start right here. It joins across and we're going to end there, but I'm going to straighten that one out as well because I want it to be a nice clean object. I don't want it to, and I'm going to make this a little bit wider. And then it's going to do this one and stop right here. Then the next object is going to start and stop over here. And then this object, I'm going to also make it straight. So let's grab these nodes and I'm going to do something like this and something like this, and let's go start and stop, and let's make sure that I stop here, and when I pick up the next object, and let's just pan over so we're seeing this on screen. On this one here, I'm going to make sure that it goes down a stitch so it's not joining across the top. None of my stitches are joining across the top. This one here, I could come in here and edit this just a little bit. I mean, I'm getting pretty picky. To be honest, normally I would want to redigitize that because it doesn't exactly sequence the way I would want it to. But for the sake of, a pre-digitized design, I'm also going to make sure that I do come up a stitch. This one here, I'm going to go up a stitch here. So I'm not crossing right at the very bottom on any of these. And this one, I do not need to have a traveling stitch because it does do this first, but I am going to grab these two and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Let's hit the select instead of the edit, and I'm going to hit this one and this one. I'm going to convert them both to artwork. I'm going to close the open end here at the top, and then while it's closed, I'm going to come here and I'm going to weld them together, and then now they're welded, but I need to do a little slice and dice right here on these connecting stitches. So I put a point down, and then right click, and there it is sliced. And now I just have to select it and I can convert this to artwork. So let's convert it to a satin stitch. I can now put my inclinations in properly so that I have a nice turn on this. So it's going to actually ease into one side, ease into the other side, go to straight, and then go from here across and from here across again, and then hit that. Actually, let's do one more here. I like to have it near my open ends, making sure that it is falling on the right line. If it's not falling on the right line, then bad things are going to happen. So I'm going to move that one off a little bit, and now let's just enter, and I'm going to make sure that I start right here, and I'm going to stop right over here. Let's just stop at the corner over here. So right there. Now, here's where I have to remember that right now, this is not in the right sewing order. So I need to go here, but I need to select that item. And when that item is selected, I need to move it up to the correct part of the design. Because right now, it is, if I look at this, number, let's see where it would be. Right here, I believe. Nope, that's the .com, so there's the K. And there's that one, so let's put it right here. Now that's going to make more sense. So now I have put that in the proper sequence. So again, you can always switch from artwork mode to stitch mode. I can go in there and edit the paths if I want. I am looking at this and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to delete some of these because I see a little bit of issue with how some of these are generating. And the reason why is there is a lot of sort of objects here that could probably be deleted because I did use my editing. So I'm going to delete some of those points. That brought that stitch right in there. Got to be honest, that's just because I am so super picky with this type of stuff. Normally you would never see that in a million years, so that's a little bit of overkill, but I am just trying to get all these objects so that they don't join at the bottom of your lettering. Going up that little bit is always going to make it look better. And now I'm just going to move over to here, closest point, same deal here. I'm going to probably come up one stitch, make sure that I go up one stitch here so that it's not joining at the bottom. I'm going to take this one, move it over to here, and then take this object and move it up to here. That's closest point now. Again, I'll probably go in and just fix some of these little areas where I want to make sure that the stitches are going in the same direction. Let's just go over like this, and that pretty much looks good. All these are capped, although this one here looks like there is some unnecessary stitches kind of happening up at the top there. So let's reduce this so that it actually meets up to the cap, not extends past the cap. Move this one over, and that looks to be pretty much done. Now, that is kind of it. I'm going to bring this back to full screen. We're going to take a look at this entire thing. So let's fit to screen. Let's just move it up a little bit, turn off my 3D, and let's turn off the 3D. I do know that on this one, actually if you turn the 3D on, I did notice a little stitch going across there. To be honest, this is between color changes, but by moving the start and stops, I got rid of that. You can see the trim functions there. And if I look at this now, that is pretty much done. I can just go in and add some underlay to all the letters, add a bit of underlay to this one piece, and it should sew out much better and be much cleaner than before. So let's add that underlay. Now to get my properties up, if you select on an object and I click properties, I'll have the properties come up within my little window here. I can put it wherever I want. Let's go to the underlays tab, and I want to do, let's say, a contour around the outside, but I think because it's such a wide stitch, I'm going to do a zigzag as well. So that way I have a zigzag and a contour. And as far as the inset is concerned, I might actually move that to a 0.45. Let's do 0.5, and actually 0.4 might even be a little better. That's going to bring it a little closer to the edge of the stitching. So now I just want to add a center underlay to all of the black letters. So I'm just going to select that, and I know that there was one stitch here that is a running stitch. So to make sure that I have all the same stitch types chosen, I just deselected the one that I knew would be a conflict, and then I'm going to right click and go to my properties, and I will have my underlay show up. If I just selected everything and that run stitch was in there, because there is two types of stitches, it wouldn't know what to do. So I'm just going to do a center run underlay, make sure that I have the center run on, and now it's given me a center run under everywhere in the design, so it's going to sew a little bit better because there's going to be some stability underneath of those stitches that are sewing out. So just to be sure we didn't leave any stones unturned, I'm going to turn the 3D on, and I am going to pan over this way, and I want to remember that I have this little tiny object right there. Let's grab that object, and I'm going to make sure that there is a center run in there because I do want to have a tie-in, have a little bit of stitching, and then it finishes the satin around the outside. Otherwise, it could drop down. If a thread comes out, you don't want to miss any of those important stitches. So this design is pretty much done. If we look at it, 1-to-1 scale, it's pretty tiny as far as I'm concerned. And, the ability to change all of the connecting stitches from the very, very bottom of the objects and to come up a little bit, that should definitely help with the overall appearance. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to catch us next time.